G'day folks, the Battle of Gettysburg, which took place from the 1st to the 3rd of July 1863, is a favoured topic among both historians and game designers. It has been the subject of dozens of game designs over the years, and in this video I'll be taking you through some of the more recent and readily available game designs on the battle. I'll also talk about some of the titles that cover aspects of that battle and titles that cover the broader Gettysburg campaign, while also acknowledging some of the smaller scenario and focused titles. Keeping in mind that I'm really focusing here on more recent titles that are either new and available or more readily available on the second-hand market. But as I said, I'll give a nod to some of those older titles that are more difficult to find, just in case you really want to go and hunt them down. And I'll begin the list with a forthcoming title. This is kickstarted early this year. It is A Most Fearful Sacrifice, designed by Herman Lutman, being published by Flying Pig Games. This is scheduled for release in early 2022. Now this uses Rick Barber art. It features what's known as a Black Swan operating system, which is a sort of card facilitated system. You activate formations by core. This is a lavish production. The counters are reported to be about 2mm thick, 13/16 of an inch large. So huge counters. The core features of these units are their strength in the bottom left, cohesion on the bottom right. They are referred to as demi-brigades, so you'll have several counters making up a brigade based on the size of those brigades. It features a huge map of the area around Gettysburg, which totals about 15 square feet of mounted maps with about 200 yards to a hex. As I said, this is being kickstarted. You can still make a late pledge as of the time of recording in July 2021, and it should be released in early 2022. Second title on my list is Eric Lee Smith's Battle Hymn, Volume 1, Gettysburg and Pea Ridge. This is two battles in the one volume. This was published by Compass Games in 2018. It is a very playable, easy to grasp brigade level game covering the Battle of Gettysburg on one map. It uses a chit draw mechanism as the underlying system for activating your units, and artillery and morale are dominant themes in the battle. As I said, this is very quick and easy to play, and I've got a few playthrough videos on the channel if you want to check that out in more detail. The third title is Gettysburg by Mark Herman. This was originally published with C3I number 32 in 2018, was published as a Designer's Deluxe box edition, and is being redeveloped with the title Rebel Fury to be published by G&T Games in maybe later this year, 2021, possibly 2022. This is going to form part of a new Civil War Heritage series, a series of games. You can see the image by Roger McGowan in the bottom left here. Really one map focused, light, quick, very portable designs. You have half-day turns, so over the 3-day Battle of Gettysburg, you have 6 turns in total, about 667 yards to a hex, with a total of about 28 counters on the map at any one time. So yeah, Gettysburg Rebel Fury, keep an eye out for that development. It's, I believe, in playtesting at the moment. It should be coming out quite soon. The next title in the series is one that I haven't played. It is called One Session Gettysburg. It's redesigned by Marcus Stumpter based on an original design by Hampton Newsom. And this is published also in 2018 by Chris Harding Simulations, and it's described as compact and fast, core activated by chit pull mechanism, and a simple order system that doesn't require you to actually write orders down. The scale is about half a mile to a hex, division scale, and again, fast moving turns, 3.5 hours per daylight turn. There are 5 turns in a day, including 4 daylight turns and 1 night turn. And as you can see from the image on the top right there, it's quite a broad scale, moving quite quickly. The next title I have for you is Last Chance for Victory. This is a design by Dean Essig. It is published by MMP in 2014. And this is part of Dean's and MMP's broader line of battle series, which continues to be expanded. This is an evolution of the Regimental sub-series, which is an evolution from the Civil War Brigade series, which has been in development for 30 plus years. Last Chance of Victory is a monster title on the Battle of Gettysburg, and if you really want to get your teeth into the Battle of Gettysburg, this is a great place to start. It is regimental level scale, 15-minute turns, very detailed, but with what I found to be quite fast-playing rules. The turns, whilst you're dealing with a lot of detail and facing and different weapon types and artillery types and different morale effects and so forth, it plays through quite quickly. There is a written order system for the larger battles and scenarios. Each title in this series, including Last Chance for Victory, features quite a number of different smaller scenarios. So if you really want to get your teeth into the detail of the Battle of Gettysburg, I highly recommend this as a great place to start. The next title in this series is Gettysburg 150. This is an expansion of the Hold the Line system. It's a relatively light series, and this is a relatively light game, which uses a varying number of command action points to move and attack with your units. It is divisional level, light to moderate complexity. You can play through the full Battle of Gettysburg in about 3 to 4 hours, and designed by Mike Wiley, and published in 2013. Looking further, we have Rachel Simmonson's design, The Guns of Gettysburg. Now, Simmons, of course, designed Napoleon's Triumph and Bonaparte at Marengo, and they are two of my favourite games. The Guns of Gettysburg uses a similar system where you've got this linear block system with hidden sort of unit types and values. There are modifiers in this game for your block strength, terrain, positioning. Basically, you can make flank attacks. You have battle tokens to give you sort of extra options on your turn. This is probably a little closer to Bonaparte at Marengo than Napoleon's Triumph, but with a lot of little differences to make it a unique game. But yeah, well worth checking out. Published in 2013, probably more difficult to come by these days. The next title is Gettysburg by Martin Wallace. Now, Martin Wallace is a designer who I have a lot of faith in. Focuses more on creating engaging and tense games rather than detailed historical simulations. And Gettysburg is an example of this. It's an evolution of his design that he applied to his title Waterloo, and there are many similarities between the two. In this title, you basically place your leader blocks, order blocks on the map to give orders to your units. In that space or an adjacent space, Confederates have more orders because they're on the attack. Wallace really here is focused on creating a tense, exciting and balanced experience rather than an accurate and detailed recreation of the battle. So it's something to keep in mind if you're looking for a faithful recreation of Gettysburg. I mean, you'll find the broad details here, but nothing too fine or particular. Instead, this is touted as a tense, exciting two-player game experience. From there, we shift to Gettysburg Badge of Courage, and this is, of course, standard Columbia Games block game treatment of the Battle of Gettysburg, designed by Tom Dalgleish and Grant Dalgleish, published back in 2004. I have not played this, so I don't know too much about this, but it has a decent second-hand market if you're looking for a block game treatment focusing on just the battle itself. And lastly, we move to one of the classics, of course, another very detailed treatment of the Battle of Gettysburg, 3 Days of Gettysburg, published by Richard H. Berg. I'm showing here the 3rd edition published by GMT Games in 2004, and I played this for months and months on end. There are many small scenarios to get your teeth into. It is finely detailed like Last Chance for Victory, the Line of Battle series. I did a comparison on these two series quite recently. If you want to compare the two, check them out. 3 Days of Gettysburg is more detailed, it is more complex, it is slower to move through. That's just summing up the differences. They both feel very detailed, regimental treatments. You really feel like you're getting to the nitty-gritty of terrain and movement and command and control and so forth. This one is slightly more difficult to access. It's nearly 20 years old. Still very much playable. It's part of course, the Great Battles of the American Civil War series. Still a wonderful game. It has held up very well. So they are really the 10 more readily available games, more recent titles over the last 20 years that you can find on the Battle of Gettysburg, focusing, of course, on the 3 days of the battle as a whole, not considering particular days or particular scenarios, covering the whole situation. I do, however, want to acknowledge some other harder to find titles. These include Rick Barber's Summer Storm. This is designed by Rick Barber with art by Rick Barber. It is a double-blind game with a heavy focus. I haven't played this. Apparently there's sort of tactical and operational considerations. There's a heavy focus on morale here. And again, it's a double-blind title, which a lot of people have said it is fairly easy to play and create some really tense and exciting moments between the two players. The second title here is Dixie Gettysburg. This is a card game where cards represent things like generals, regiments, batteries, terrain, events, simulating via cards the Battle of Gettysburg. The third title there, of course, a classic, Thunder at the Crossroads, designed by Dean Essig, part of the Civil War Brigade series, published in 1993, which really was, from this title, we have the sort of evolution of the regimental sub-series, and then Last Chance for Victory. So you can almost say this is the ancestor to Last Chance for Victory, but at that brigade scale. I don't have this. I'd like to get it to test it out. The next title there is, of course, the ancestor to 3 Days at Gettysburg. Terrible Swift Sword, designed by Richard Berg in 1976. Again, so we're going back 45 years to this title. But a lot of people rave about, I've never played this. I have played 3 Days at Gettysburg, but not TSS. But people praise this game and its innovative and original design, and just how this really was the foundation for so much subsequent game design and considerations. The bottom three titles there. Gettysburg, first of all, the S. Craig Taylor title from 1988, published by Avalon Hill. This one, if you can find it, from 1988, is, well, they're all light and quick titles. The first one there from S. Craig Taylor had about 100 units, played pretty quickly. The second one from 1977, designed by Mick Ull, published by Avalon Hill. Each player had about 25 units on the board, and again, played through light and quickly. And the last one there, the classic Gettysburg from 1958, designed by the master Charles S. Roberts, published by Avalon Hill, and it featured about 27 Confederate and 41 Union forces, originally on a square grid-based map. Charles S. Roberts shifted to hexes. He wasn't happy with how hexes worked, so he shifted back to the square-based grid in subsequent publications. Now, as I said, I've focused here on games that cover the whole 3-day Battle of Gettysburg, but there are certainly some notable focused titles that focus on days or scenarios or sort of aspects of the battle. And I just want to mention some of these here. The first is, of course, The Devils to Pay, the first day at Gettysburg. This is a part of that blind swords system. You have about 250 yards per hex. The game features demi-brigades. It is very similar to, it's really the system underlying a Most Fearful Sacrifice, with similar art, similar styles, similar sense of play as far as what I can gather about a Most Fearful Sacrifice. That's part of the blind sword system, and it's well worth checking out the system and the series as a whole. Table Battles Gettysburg is published by Holland Spiel. It is a it's very light, what I describe as a unit card game. This is where almost a card game, where a card represents a unit. It is very light and quite abstract, but it still conveys, these table battles games still manage to convey the broad sort of feel for these battles. So if you're looking for a very quick, portable, playable introduction to Gettysburg, I recommend checking out Table Battles Table Battles Gettysburg. The third title there is, again, Long Street Attacks, part of that blind swords system. And again, highly recommend that. That's published by Revolution Games. The fourth title, Herman Luttman, featuring very prominently here, is In Magnificent Style. I've shown here the recent re-release. I have a copy of the original VPG edition from many years ago. It is one of my most played games. This is focuses on Pickett's charge on the 3rd of July 1863, and it's wonderfully playable. It's a solitaire treatment of Pickett's charge, so you are pushing your luck with your formations against this AI system. It works very well. It plays very quickly. There's a lot of tension and excitement. Check that out if you get a chance. That's in magnificent style. And the last one here is Gettysburg, the Wheatfield. Another Herman Luttmann design. This I used to own this. This is a VPG game. It sought to sort of model miniatures rules, but using cardboards and counters and even cardboard rulers on this map of the Wheatfield. I played it many years ago, and yeah, it was a nice, fun, fairly quick playing. And because you're basically you're kind of using these cardboard counters as miniatures, it kind of conveys a similar feel to playing a miniatures game, but on a small footprint and at relatively low cost. This is a victory point game. So yeah, it was a Ziploc game that yeah, it was quite fun to play. In addition to those, of course, there are many titles that cover the broader Gettysburg campaign, and I wanted to mention sort of just a few of these. First of all, A Formidable Invasion. This is a series of rules to guide a campaign for a miniatures system. I'm noting that it's a very interesting blend of sort of miniatures rules. This is in effect an expansion to miniatures rules with the campaign, with the Battle of Gettysburg. So that's sort of an honorary mention there. You've also got La Campagne de Gettysburg from Vae Victis. This is another quite broadly abstracted simulation recreation of the campaign, running from the 22nd of June through to the 13th of July, 1863. Each turn represents 2 days. That's quite a broad abstraction, relatively light treatment, but worth checking out if you're looking for something lighter at least. Not super light, but light on the campaign. And finally, of course, I think the quintessential campaign games, Roads to Gettysburg 1 and 2. Yeah, I don't think you can go any more detailed in terms of considering the campaign than these two. And of course, Roads to Gettysburg 2 is a recent publication and quite readily available. Finally, folks, before I wrap up, a brief note on the very many scenarios. As I said, there are dozens of titles on the Battle of Gettysburg. I haven't mentioned a lot of the smaller publications. There are some small print runs. There are a lot of self-published titles on the Battle of Gettysburg or on aspects of those battles. I've tried to focus on the bigger, as I said, readily available titles that you can find in most stores. There are also many Gettysburg scenarios or aspects of Gettysburg scenarios for other titles. For example, there's Gettysburg Into the Wheatfield for the Advanced Tobruk system. There's ASL Comp Gettysburg. I had no idea. ASL, I don't know how that even works, covers Gettysburg. There's a Gettysburg expansion for Sound the Charge, Gettysburg expansion for Command Combat. There's Crossed Sabres, cavalry scenarios from the Gettysburg campaign, Guns at Gettysburg scenarios, and Brothers Divided miniature rules for the Battle of Gettysburg, among many, many others that I haven't covered. Folks, the idea here is hopefully to give you a starting point if you're looking to get into Gettysburg, to find something that may be of interest. Hopefully that has been informative, of value. Hope you find what you're looking for. If you have anything in particular you want to suggest, please leave a comment below. Happy to expand this list as needed. Take care, folks.